Okay, post-activation potentiation part 3. This material that I'm going to share with you is based on the work of Carlo J De Luca, and in particular, an experiment that he referred to in a talk that he gave back in 2011 at the ISBS conference in Portugal. You can Google that, you can find that, you can download it, you can watch it. It's awesome. It's about an hour. The audio is a little shaky, but it's worth it. So here's what he did. He said, hey, look, I want to observe how motor units are recruited. I want to see how they're used. We know about the size principle. That was cool. But what's that got to do with PAP? Well, here's what he did. He said, look, we're going to take the first dorsal interosseous muscle. We know we've got 120 motor units in there. Let's see how those motor units are pulled in, okay? And we're going to select a certain amount of force that this muscle is going to generate. We're going to make them hold that amount of force until they can't anymore. So they picked 20%, 20% of the maximal voluntary contraction. You hold that tension as long as you can. At about 8.5 minutes is where it all fell apart. There are about 120 motor units. Let's watch how they play. So he used a very specific technology that he developed called decomposition EMG. It's brilliant, where they can actually look at the action potential, the motor unit action potential train for each one of the motor units. It's pretty cool, yeah? So what he found was, at 30 seconds in, 20% of this person's maximal voluntary contraction, this is 20%, they were using 91 of their motor units. 91 of 120. After a minute, it was down to 90. Huh, we lost one. That's interesting. Is that a fluke? Well, let's keep looking. At 1.5 minutes, there are fewer motor units. Now, how can we explain that? Well, one of the things that Dr. De Luca said is that there's a potential that what happened here is some potentiation. In other words, once these motor units were recruited, the fiber is actually potentiated, so you don't need as many motor units to maintain that level of contraction. So that potentiation actually created some efficiency, so you could de-recruit a few motor units. That's kind of cool, yeah? Well, let's keep going. As we start to move towards 8.5 minutes, we start to add motor units again. 2 minutes, 89, 3 minutes, 96, 4 minutes, 113, and then finally up here, all the motor units have been recruited. Now, you guys, I want you to see that all the motor units have been recruited well below 100% of their maximal voluntary contraction, just at 20%. And they were able to recruit all of those motor units. Pretty cool, huh? The other thing that's really neat about this is that Dr. De Luca was able to show that there is potentiation all the way to the end. The way that potentiation looks is a little bit different. You'd have to look at the individual EMGs, which he developed a beautiful algorithm called decomposition EMG that helps us to look at each one of these motor units individually. Really cool stuff. Post-activation potentiation happens not once, not twice, but throughout this continuum. All right, so the question becomes, what do you do with all this? Well, what do we got? We see that post-activation potentiation can happen from small motor units all the way up to the largest motor units, and in recruiting the largest motor units, we can even do that under relatively low load conditions. It's kind of interesting, right? There could be some utility to that. You guys are the professionals, so I'll leave you to sort out when you'd want to use some sort of low load, but you should also know that the same phenomenon happens at higher levels of contraction. The time variable might be less. You should also know that this relationship of the high preponderance of motor units being recruited early on and the even higher number of motor units being recruited way at the end is not the same. The proportion of the rise is not the same in all tissue types, right? This is just for one muscle, the first dorsal interosseous. If we were looking at the vastus lateralis, different deal. We'd still see the same general trend, right? But the addition of motor units might happen at different levels of effort and at different levels of fatigue. Hey, if there's anything that I've got wrong here, I want to know about it. I really do. So if you work at Delsis, or if you work at BTS Engineering, or if you are, this is your thing, EMG, I want to know. Please let me know. You can, whatever, interact with me.